Hey, I'm Scott. I'm the owner of North Jersey Customs here in Denville, New Jersey. Not only do we do full-blown custom choppers, we do service and repairs and modifications on Harleys as well as metric cruisers. We also do maintenance on Harleys as well as metric cruisers. Today we want to talk a little bit about winterizing your bike, getting it ready for the winter riding season and putting it away for the winter. As well as at the end here, we're going to talk about extended storage. So the first thing we're going to talk about is our battery. We want to keep our battery charged fully for a couple of different reasons. Number one, multiple discharges on a battery kills the life of it, as well as if it is discharged fully, in the wintertime when it's real cold out, the water in the battery can actually freeze and that destroys it. So there's a couple of different ways that we can handle that. Number one, we can take the battery out of the bike and put it in our house, in a warm spot in the house, which keeps it from freezing and helps it to keep it from discharging as well because it's not hooked up to the battery. So we can do that, but better yet, we'd rather have you put on a battery tender. There's a couple of different models out there. There's one that's a little bit more heavy duty that can handle a motorcycle as well as a car, boat, what have you. And then there's a smaller one which is called the Battery Tender Junior, which is more specific for motorcycles or watercraft, stuff like that. So how that works is it comes with a little pigtail. We want to take the pigtail and mount it right to our battery. So we just take the bolts out of their battery terminals and hook them right underneath there, and it stays on the bike all the time. The little pigtail you can tuck in behind your covers and so forth. When you come in from your ride, you just simply take the cap off of it, plug it into the cord that goes into the battery tender, and it can actually stay on there forever. Although I've found that leaving it on there forever can actually cause the battery to discharge at times. So I'd like to see you put it on there for a week and disconnect it for a couple weeks, put it back on for a week, disconnect it for a couple weeks. I know that's hard to do. If you don't want to do that, just leave it on the whole time and it should maintain the charge of the battery. It just plugs into the wall outlet, into a 110 wall outlet in your house, and then there's little lights on it that tells you what's happening there, whether it's discharged, whether it is charging, or whether it's fully charged. So you just plug that right into the wall outlet, the other end hooks up to the bike, and you're all set. We also want to talk about a cooling system. Obviously that only applies to bikes that are water-cooled. Air-cooled bikes don't have antifreeze in them. Pretty important to keep the antifreeze protection up to snuff. We want to keep it around negative 34 degrees, which is a 50-50 mixture of antifreeze and water. That also gives you the right combination for summertime for the cooling of the bike. It's also engine coolant as well as antifreeze. So very important to keep that protection where it should be. We test that in a couple of different ways. Number one is with a hydrometer. You actually take a sample of the antifreeze, and it's got a chart on here. It tells you what the antifreeze protection is. Get that at a regular auto parts store. Or you can use what they call dip strips, which are just a little paper strip that's got a couple of different color coordinated checks on there. You dip it in the antifreeze, you wait about a minute or two, and then there's a chart on the back of the jar there. It tells you the antifreeze protection as well as the acidic value of the antifreeze. Pretty important to check that acidic value as well. After a period of time, antifreeze does has acidic value to it and can corrode the inside of your cooling system, especially important with bikes that are that have aluminum engines, and most of them do. So it corrodes the heck out of aluminum. So because of that, we want to change our antifreeze about once every 2 years. How we do that, we just take the lower hose off of the radiator, let it drain out completely, put it back on, tighten up the clamp, and then refill the cooling system with a combination, 50-50 combination of antifreeze and water that gives you that negative 34 protection as well as your proper coolant for the summer. We also want to talk about fuel systems. Gas staying in a fuel system for an extended period of time can what they call varnish. It gets into the carburetor, the lines and petcock and so forth, and actually clogs things up. So we want to keep that in good shape. We can either drain it, or better yet, for short periods, we want to put a stabilizer in there, which is just a little bottle. Most of you have probably seen this before. It's a bottle of stabilizer. It's got a little measuring device on the top of it there. We put a certain amount in. There's a chart on the back of the bottle. It tells you how much to put for how much gas you have in the bike. Go ahead and put that in there. We also want to fill the tank all the way up. If a tank is low on fuel, it can tend to sweat especially in the winter time, and when it sweats, it gets water build up on the inside of the gas tank and actually rusts the inside of the tank. So what we want to do, again, we want to put the right amount in there, put the stabilizer right in the fuel, fill it up with fresh gas, swish it around a bit, and then we either want to go for a ride to work it through the lines, carburetor, fuel injectors, whatever it may have. Or if it's too cold to go out for a ride, you don't want to ride, we can certainly just leave it run in the driveway there for a while, maybe 15-20 minutes or so, and that'll get everything through the fuel system and keep everything pretty well protected. So we want to talk about tires too. When it gets colder out, the weather gets colder, our tire pressures will actually drop. So we want to check them periodically and make sure that they're up to where they should be. Also, when we pull the bike in the garage, maybe we want to think about putting a cover on there. A nice lightweight cotton cover works the best. It absorbs moisture off of the surface of it. Keeps it a little bit drier. Also keeps dust and dirt and debris off of the bike. If kids are walking by through the garage and they put their hands on it, it can actually scratch the paint. So, also, if something light falls on it, it may keep it from getting scratched or dinged as well. So pretty important, maybe we want to keep a cover on there. If we're going to keep our bike stored for an extended period of time, and let's say 6 months or more, we want to do things a little bit differently. Number one, with our fuel system, we want to drain the tank instead of doing the stabilizer. We talked before about putting a stabilizer in there. For extended stays, we actually want to get the gas out of there completely because stabilizer is only good for a certain amount of time. So we want to drain the tank and then run the bike until it actually runs out of fuel. That'll ensure that all the fuel is out of the lines, the petcock, the fuel injectors, carburetor, whatever you have there, and we don't have to worry about varnish buildup at all. Number two, what we want to do is pull out the spark plugs, and we want to put some oil in the cylinders, which will keep the items inside the engine from getting rusty in there. So we want to pull the spark plugs out, put a couple ounces of either Marvel Mystery Oil. If you don't have that, you can certainly use engine oil. Put a few ounces in there, put the spark plugs back in without the wires on it, crank the engine over, and it'll actually splash the oil around inside the engine there and lubricate everything up nice so we don't have to worry about rust. As far as the batteries go for extended storage, we want to probably take it out of the bike completely, bring it into the house and hook it up to a battery tender. That way it's good to go. It's warm, it's not going to freeze, and there won't be any drain on it from the bike itself, so we're good to go there. And the last thing with extended storage, we want to get the bike up off the ground. We want to get the tires off the ground so that it doesn't make flat spots on the tires, as well as the moisture from any concrete that it might be sitting on actually deteriorates the tires as well. So we can get the bike up off the ground with a jack, put some wooden blocks under it, just enough to get the tires off the ground, and you should be good to go. Thanks for watching. Make sure you check back periodically at NorthJerseyCustoms.com and at YouTube, North Jersey Customs. Hopefully you got a lot of information out of this tip. We'll see you soon.